Imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war just because somebody got under his very thin skin. Americans aren't just electing a president in November. We're choosing our next commander-in-chief, the person we count on to decide questions of war and peace, life and death. And like many across our country and around the world, I believe the person the Republicans have nominated for president cannot do the job. Donald Trump's ideas aren't just different, they are dangerously incoherent. They're not even really ideas, just a series of bizarre rants, because it's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war just because somebody got under his very thin skin. Diplomacy is often the only way to avoid a conflict that could end up exacting a much greater cost. It takes patience, persistence, and an eye on the long game, but it's worth it. Take the nuclear agreement with Iran. When President Obama took office, Iran was racing toward a nuclear bomb. Some called for military action, but that could have ignited a broader war that could have mired our troops in another Middle Eastern conflict. President Obama chose a different path. And I got to work leading the effort to impose crippling sanctions. We brought Iran to the table, we began talks, and eventually we reached an agreement that you know the first thing about Iran or its nuclear program. Ask him. It'll become very clear very quickly. Question. Iran? Of course, Trump doesn't have answers to those questions. Donald Trump doesn't know the first thing about Iran or its nuclear program. Ask him. It'll become very clear very quickly. Making those calls, someone thin-skinned and quick to anger who lashes out at the smallest criticism. Do we want his finger anywhere near the button?
Praise to the Most High. What you're looking at right now is a portal. This right here is a portal. Opened up out of nowhere. This is footage from that gentleman I told you that gets the best footage I've seen so far. If you want to see it for yourself, you can. UFO, alarm. And a strange portal opened in the sky. Spaceship hiding in the clouds. So the spaceship was somewhere here in the clouds. But it opened up and the spaceship came out. Last video we had, there was a bunch of spaceships coming out of nowhere. What is that? Look how it's an opening too. What is this? It's not good, whatever it is. Now I realized that the locusts come, they're going to come from different places. But hold on, one more second.
6 years old at the time. Knowledgeable about what was coming than other. Everybody was, like it showed these different people. And we was all living our lives, and some of us were more knowledgeable about what was coming than others of us. We were in a team, but we wasn't together. Like, we was all living separate states, separate lives. And we was in a team, but many of us knew we was in it. We was in a team and we was going to be gathered into this team, but we wasn't gathered yet at first. Then all of a sudden we was gathered. Like it showed, everybody, male and female, it was males and female. And my daughter Sky was there as well. She was one of us. And we was all gathered, and we was in this classroom. It was a really big classroom. And there was this lady, and this lady, it felt like she was an angel. And she was preparing us. She was like teaching us for what was coming. And I didn't see 144,000 people. I would say it was more like, 100 people or less. And that I think represented the whole group. That, it was a symbolic dream. And there was this angel. She was an angel. I knew in the dream that she was an angel, actually. And she was preparing us for what was coming. We was all wearing our uniforms. Our same militant uniforms I've seen many times. And she was saying how the locus was coming. She was teaching us about the locus and how, people was going to be transforming into these creatures, the locust was going to be affecting people, and people was going to be transforming into these creatures. And I did, just separately off the dream for a minute, I did many dreams about these locusts. So anybody new to my channel, like, what is she talking about? You have to see those dreams. I cannot go over that right now. But basically it's the locust of Revelation, I believe Revelation 9. And the Lord has shown me a lot about these locusts, right? A lot. So I'm not going to go over all of that. But yes, I definitely see the videos that I will put in the description box. Because I explain the morphing stages, all of that. So back to the dream. So she was telling us what was coming. And in the dream, oh, I forgot to say this. Everybody was sitting down in these classroom setting seats like a desk, like sitting at a desk, but it was packed in there. And I saw my daughter Sky was sitting where the teacher's seat would be because it was packed and there was no more seats left. And I came in and it wasn't any seats at all. And the teacher herself was sitting on the decks she was sitting on the left side of the, like if you facing the deck, she was sitting on the left side and I was sitting on the right side. Because I just sat on that, because there was nowhere else to sit. So I just sat on the decks because it was just a room packed full of people. So I was in the front. So she's teaching us all this stuff about these locusts and everything, and how they're coming, and we had to fight them. She was saying, you all have to fight these locusts. And so I spoke up and I said, she was saying how we have to fight them. And I said, yes, you have to take them out their head. So I said, as long as they're still alive, they will keep fighting you if they're not dead, because it's demons. I told them that, like, you can injure their bodies, but the demon in them will still keep coming at you. Unlike a human, when a human is hurt, I was telling them this, when a human is hurt, they pay attention to their injury, and a lot of times it immobilizes them. But I said, these are demons inside of these things, and they will keep coming. And I said, you have to take out the head. And because she was saying, she had started talking about how to kill them. And I said, you have to shoot them in the head, or you have to cut off the head, you have to injure their brain some kind of way. You got to take it out the head, is what I said, And I knew also that they can chop off the head, but it has to be, they have to take out the brain. It has to be a head injury. They has to take them out that way in order to immobilize them. Because I was saying, and in the dream, as I was teaching them this, I was seeing it. Like I was seeing myself fighting this. It was a man, and he had turned into a locust. And like I said, I know people won't understand. If you're new to my channel, you won't understand what I'm talking about. You have to see the dreams in the description box that I've had about this. And so he had turned into one. And I was seeing how I was, like, as I was talking to them, I had a knife and I was like stabbing him. Or I don't know if it was me stabbing him, if somebody was stabbing this man, this creature. I wouldn't say a man, he was a creature. And they was stabbing it in the, I just saw him being stabbed in his stomach and everything, but he still kept coming. And he had wings, and he still kept coming and everything, and he was trying to use his wings at this person, and because his brain was still active, and it was almost as if he couldn't even feel the pain. The way he kept coming at this person was like they couldn't even, like he couldn't even feel the injuries to his body at all. Until all of us, because I was just seeing the arms, the hands and arms, so I don't know who was doing this to him. And then the person took out their head, like they shot him in the head or stabbed him in the head or something. It was an injury to the brain, to the head, and that immobilized him, and they finally stopped moving. And when I was seeing this, it wasn't just seeing it in a dream, but it was like the whole class was seeing it. Like I was teaching them these things, and all of a sudden this image of what I just explained appeared in front of all of us, really, is how it was. And so, you know, then the lady was the one who was really the teacher. I wasn't the teacher. I was just giving my input and prophetically, because I was explaining to them, this is the things that God has taught me, and he has taught me these things. And then that was the dream. Then the dream ended, and we was all militant. Oh, let me say this, I almost forgot. We was very militant, very focused on what we had to do. But I saw in the dream there was a couple of people. Some of the people in the classroom were kind of goofy. Like it literally showed when people was being gathered that these people were kind of laughing and kind of goofy about what was coming. And even though they was one of us, but they was just kind of laughing and kind of goofy, kind of a little bit goofy. And it was bad. It was a negative thing. And then when they came in the classroom, they was kind of goofy at first as well, like thinking everything was funny and just laughing. And then we was explaining how serious this is, and they got real serious real quick and understood, you know, this is not a game. This is life, you know, life and death for the people we have to protect, and we have to do a good job, you know. And I was just very serious, very militant, and most of the classroom was. But it was just a couple of people who was kind of laughing and goofy at first, and you know, it was just they needed to be serious about what was coming. And that was a dream. Now,
all praise to the Most High.